He didn't know, as Reuters would later discover,
Reuters,
that the rest of her body had been shipped to the army for a Pentagon experiment.
Oh, whoa.
To be used as a test dummy in IED blast. Well, last week we when we were hanging out with Mark Fennell, God, what a lovely guy.
Have you listened to any of the podcasts? Because I listened to.
I haven't yet.
I listened to there's an episode on a chalice and there's this whole like story about this chalice and this like lore of this chalice being stolen by British soldiers.
Yeah.
Like
Well, we should say
a few hundred years ago, and it's really interesting and like really like Irish, English, like tension over in the last like couple centuries, and it's really interesting.
If people just turned on the podcast and are like, whoa, it feels like I just jumped right into something that I don't know anything about because maybe they didn't hear last week's episode.
Yeah,
we're talking about Mark Fennell, our guest, who was co-hosted last week's Feel Good Friday episode, who is also the host of the podcast Stuff the British Stole.
Yeah.
And we're not even being asked to say that.
No. But I haven't listened to it yet, but I am looking forward to it. Great guy. But last week, in that episode, if you missed it, I highly suggest you go listen to it. It was one of my favorite Feel Good Friday episodes yet. But in that episode, we talked about the crazy story that came out of the U.S. about a family whose grandfather, a World War II vet, who the family had donated his body to science. And it turns out that his body, through the unregulated, body transfer market, ended up on a fucking slab in a hotel ballroom and was dissected for the public for $500 tickets. Okay,
it's crazy.
Whoa! I think I missed that.
Tickets to the event were $500.
It's crazy to hear you say, like, before last week's conversation, if I heard you say the body transfer market, I would have wanted to jump in and correct you. Be like, no, that is absolutely not a thing. But it turns out it is a thing.
So I did more.
People are paying.
Yeah. I did more digging, and this shit blows my mind. And this is like old news. This is like so here's a story from the Washington Post that came out in 2019. The title is "Human Chop Shop that sold body parts for experiments without consent." Ordered to pay $58 million to donors' families.
Whoa.
Huge lawsuit, okay? So the body broker arrived to pick up this guy, Jim Stouffer's mother, within 45 minutes of her death.
This sounds like a made-up story already.
Guys,
a character named Jim Stouffer.
When I read this, I was like, this sounds like like an episode on Ozark. Like, it is just so wild where this goes.
Substitute drugs for
with
bodies.
Bodies, yeah. Or bodies full of drugs. Stouffer wanted to donate his mom's body to science, hoping that the Biological Resource Center, keep that in mind, that company name.
Let me guess, it's a misnomer.
The Biological Resource Center in Phoenix could turn his mother's brain over for Alzheimer's research. He filled out the paperwork and 10 days later received her ashes in a wooden box. But at the same time, in 2013, Stouffer didn't know that the ashes he received were just from his mother's hand.
Whoa.
He didn't know, as Reuters would later discover,
Reuters,
that the rest of her body had been shipped to the army for a Pentagon experiment.
Oh, whoa.
To be used as a test dummy in IED blasts.
Okay, wait. I want to know.
Do you really need like formerly live human bodies for IED explosion research?
We've all seen Mythbusters, and we know that they can get the ballistic gel bodies, and they work just fine.
Gelatin bodies.
But the crazy thing is,
they're probably expensive, though.
I want to know how big the box is.
not as expensive, cheaper than an old lady.
I really want to know how big the box was with the ashes for the hand, because quick little side story here. When I was moving home from Dubai, I actually went on Taylor's yoga retreat in Peru. And so I flew from Dubai to Peru, and I was also meeting my mom there. And when my mom landed, I saw her and I was so excited to see her. And I went up to her and I gave her a big hug, and she was crying. And I was like, "Oh, Mom, like, you're so happy to see me. That's amazing." And she was like, "No, I just got a call that our cat's dead." And she was so devastated. She had left Halifax, flying to Peru. Got a call while she was on a layover that the cat was dead. And
He
her
was
exchange students found them.
he was a bad cat.
He deserved it.
He was a lovely cat,
Yeah,
and
well.
and so they said, "What do you want to do with the body of the cat?" And my mom had a couple of exchange students living with her at the time, and they didn't know what to do. My mom was like, "Do whatever." She was like clearly in shock, and she was like, "I don't know. Like, I guess we get him cremated, get his ashes." So when we got home from Peru, there was this box in our living room that was like quite a fair sized box, like probably shoebox size, with the cat's ashes in it. So like I imagine when you get an urn for your loved one, I've never seen ashes in an urn from a human, but I imagine there's a lot of ashes.
Well, Bigby was 120 pounds, so a small-ish human size, and I just got his box back.
How big was it? How big is it?
It's it's like a shoebox,
Like
but
a-
it's
like an urn is
it's
like-
heavy, dude. I picked it up and I went, oh my god.
So if you
An urn is like this. An urn is like the size of a vase that would be used for a centerpiece flower arrangement at a wedding where you can't see anybody around the table.
We need an urn in the studio.
we should get
Yeah,
one.
that's a
yeah.
good idea.
If anyone has a dead family member and you're cool with it, you can just send that to
Put it
us.
right up there, and we won't pay you for it,
No,
because we don't want to take part in the body transfer market.
Yeah. Honestly,
also illegal.
really.
We'll get into that after.
Really quick thing. Couldn't somebody like a museum put their parents or loved ones' ashes on our shelf on loan? Because I mean, to be fair, if they're watching
Right.
these episodes
As
on
like
YouTube
as like
on
an
Fridays,
exhibit ad.
I mean, to be fair, if they're watching these episodes on YouTube, they'll probably see that urn more once a week for an hour on Fridays than they would
It's the right thing to
in
do.
the living room, right? Anyway, so I was just saying, what I wanted to say was, wouldn't you know if you got your mom's ashes back?
Yeah, but
and it
maybe
was just her
they
hand.
cut it like cocaine. They have
Mix in some sand?
they have the small ashes, the small bit of ashes from the hand, and then they like put some sand in there.
You say wouldn't you know, but if you've never held a box of someone's ashes, you wouldn't.
I guess so.
You wouldn't really know. So the guy Jim Stouffer, he was quoted saying she was then supposedly strapped in a chair on some sort of apparatus, and a detonation took place underneath her to basically get an idea of what the human body goes through when a vehicle is hit by an IED. The painful revelation would lead Stouffer to join more than 20 other people in a lawsuit against Biological Resource Center for alleging fraud and deception. So when this came out on Tuesday, after years of litigation, the civil trial finally came to a close. In Maricopa County Superior Court, a jury awarded $58 million in damages to the plaintiffs, finding that the Phoenix Body Donation Company...
Was it 58 million to 20 families?
Yeah.
They're probably not going to get any of that, though.
The Phoenix Body Donation Company and its owner deceived the families into donating their loved ones' bodies, only for them to end up dismembered and distributed for profits all over the country. 10 out of the 21 plaintiffs were awarded the damages. So 10 out of the 21 received the money, which included $50 million in punitive damages and $8 million in compensatory damages. Thank you. They didn't list who got money or where the money went. But so a lawyer who is behind all this, his name is Michael S. Berg, just sent him an email. Michael, please come on the show. He said in a statement that the case was a first of its kind in the body brokering business and hoped the verdict would send a message to the rest of the industry about the consequences for deceiving body donors. Quote, the selling of human remains is an underground industry that most people don't know about, Berg said. These funeral homes defrauded grieving families by obtaining the remains of their loved ones and then selling the body parts on the black market. It was an honor to help bring an element of closure to families who suffer from the horrific actions of these individuals. So during the trial, Biologic Resource Center's attorney, Timothy O'Connor, argued that the plaintiffs signed consent agreements that said bodies could be disarticulated and stressed that dismembering a body, quote, doesn't mean it hasn't been treated with dignity and respect. Tuesday's verdict came after a years-long cross-country investigation that involved the FBI. And and has since resulted in multiple convictions and numerous lawsuits against body brokers.
Okay, but can we go
Body
back?
brokers.
Maybe we're gonna get there, but how did Jim Stouffer, where did this court case come from? Like, how do you find out?
Yeah,
We're gonna get there, and it is the craziest fucking thing on how all this unraveled. It's fucking crazy.
You know what's really what's really crazy about the piece that you said about the funeral homes and like that funeral homes have defrauded. Like, if you just completely remove this bonanza of insanity of, you know, the exchange of corpses after they are, you know, given over, signed over, whatever, deceiving, you know, people whose family members have died. Funeral homes, not all funeral homes, but a large sum of them, especially because they're largely a conglomeratized, where like one or two businesses own many of them across a given country. They are shady, to say the least, already, without mentioning the body brokering business.
Yeah,
You know, with the exception of people like our friend Jeremy from Death Ed.
Yes, and Caitlin Doty and others that, you know, they're
the people that are running homes that are going, I don't do that.
I don't fall for this bullshit.
I mean, it's the way that they're set up in the sense that, like, you know, you're dealing with a grieving person who's having to make a decision when, like, they might not be of quote unquote sound mind. You know, they're going through something very emotionally traumatic, and
or might not have all the information. Like, you know, it's like these things just aren't clearly stated to the people that are involved.
There are manipulative landmines everywhere for people that are running funeral homes. Like temptation traps to take advantage of people.
Well, the funeral home is one thing, but getting into these like body brokers, because they're separate from the funeral homes.
yes,
Right.
This
But
guy,
the funeral homes are working with them in
yes,
some capacity.
Yes. So this guy, Stephen Gore, he was the owner of Biological Resource Center. He was convicted in 2015 of running an illegal enterprise for selling body parts from people with infectious diseases to unwitting buyers. He was sentenced to 4 years probation. So while it is legal to sell body parts for research, it is not legal to sell infected body parts or to deceive the families donating the body about how it will be used. And Gore was accused of doing both.
But I mean, how do you get said body parts, infected or not infected? Like, how do you acquire body parts and then sell them?
So he acquires the body parts from funeral homes that have received a body that has been told by the family or by the person who died in some advance directive or will that their body is to be donated to science. And so his company is a company that goes, we're the company that buys the body and finds a place for that science, quote unquote science. If you're not watching on YouTube, big hand quotes there.
Right.
They're the ones finding the science to donate the body to. So they're the body broker, right?
And they're following the science.
So Biological Resource Center would solicit bodies from grieving families looking to donate loved ones' bodies for medical research while offering to cremate a portion of the body for free. But in the lawsuit, the plaintiff said they had no idea their loved ones were being chopped up and tossed into freezers with hundreds of other body parts, feet, shoulders, legs, spines, even genitals. And they had no idea that bodies would be used for ballistics testing or crash dummies, the lawsuit said. Full bodies, realtors found,
Reuters.
were sold for $5,893 each.
How much? 5,900?
$5,900 for a body.
Could you imagine being like, okay, let's just imagine not being this scam company now. Let's imagine being a buyer, like from a ballistics company. So you're testing your ammo, and you're like, oh, well, we gotta order in a fresh batch of bodies.
Fresh batch of not so fresh bodies.
You have these people, human beings, coming in that are like probably frozen.
Yep.
And you're just shooting the bodies.
I'm also finding it very hard.
Blowing them up.
I'm also finding it very hard to believe how a dead body is that has been dead and is definitely not of the same structural makeup as it was when it was alive is of use in these tests. I feel like they're not the same thing.
And also you're testing IEDs on a grandmother, this woman who was like, I don't know how old she was. Let's say she was 89. This frail 89-year-old woman sitting on a chair, and they're going, all right, let's take an improvised explosive, strap it to the seat she's on, and blow that frail little grandma body up, and go, well, now we know how our soldiers are going.
Yeah, now they know how the 89-year-old demo in infantry.
But even with that being said, like what do they expect to measure using it? Like when you blow up that body,
injury,
other than going, whoa, that's cool. Like what are they?
Injury, like dismemberment.
They could be putting safety equipment on it and testing the equipment that the cadaver is wearing.
When it comes to crash test dummies, it's like seatbelt safety and airbag safety and those.
It's probably way more about testing like whether it's ballistics or like equipment.
Yeah.
It's funny. You just use the example of using a crash test dummy. Imagine that they didn't use crash test dummies and they just use these frozen bodies. How crazy would that be?
I mean, there might be. Who knows? That probably does happen.
Yeah, who knows? In its 2016 investigation, Reuters found out that even if people specifically checked off boxes saying they did not give consent for their loved one's body to be used in a violent experiment, in some cases, Biological Resource Center just said, fuck it. Stouffer said he checked no for military or traffic experiments. So did the family of a veteran who grew to despise veteran affairs over insufficient medical care, only for his body to end up in a Defense Department experiment.
Wow. Whoa. That's textbook disrespect.
Quote, this is almost beyond belief that an entire body went somewhere else without his permission, and especially to a place he absolutely did not want it to be, the veteran's granddaughter told Reuters. To go to a Department of Defense is absolutely mind-boggling. So Gore, this guy who founded this company, he founded it in 2004. This is where the story gets so fucking crazy. He founded the company in 2004 after becoming bored with selling insurance, teaching himself about the body trade on the internet.
Yeah, dude. This is like War Dogs.
But it was only by chance about 10 years later that his company's practices fell under scrutiny. So here's where we get to how this unraveled.
This reminds me of like back when the pandemic started. I was like, I wonder how I can make some extra money online. So I went looking through government RFPs, and I found this one that was like looking for somebody to supply flags to this government office.
Are RFPs just like contracts, like publicly issued contracts?
Yeah, but they're publicly issued requests for proposals. So you submit or respond to the proposal. Basically, any company can respond and make an offer.
Yeah,
this is literally
RFPs.
RFPs
requesting fungible tokens.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That's right. Which is literally exactly what War Dogs was. War Dogs. Yeah. They were looking for proposals for arms contracts.
Yeah, and so I was doing this, but I went on and I would whatever, like if there was like any product that was readily available, I would just go on and make my own. This is not allowed. I'm not sure, but anyway, I would go on and just go into Photoshop and make a like template for a proposal. And then go on and get a quote from a company and just sort of be my own middleman and respond to them. Anyway, I didn't get any of them, but I'm imagining that this is what this guy did.
Yeah.
With bodies.
You fucked up. You should have went down this route.
I should have went
and just not gotten caught.
Guys, can I ask a question right now that's coming to mind? Is does this really matter? Like
yes. Yes. What 100%.
In your opinion, because. It's
a moral issue.
It's people who are now just complaining about the person's dead. It's their body. Like, do we really care about this?
I get where you're going with that, and there is a part of me that's like, well, I mean, you're dead. So
I'm who fucking cares?
Does it It doesn't materially matter.
Do you care? Taylor, do you care personally about?
But I understand why. So I can put myself in Stouffer's shoes and go, man, if I found out they took my grandma and blew her fucking body up, I'd be a little bummed about because that's my grandma.
Would you be bummed, or would you be like, that's kind of cool that
if they did it to my body, I'd be like, cool, because I would be like, blow my body up, but don't blow my grandma's body up.
With that logic, if somebody was making a big deal about your body getting blown up, but you were like, I would actually kind of be like, that's pretty cool. Would you be like, you should not care about this?
No, because that's not me.
Yeah, I don't feel the way that a lot of people, the plaintiffs in this case, would feel or are feeling or have felt.
But if you knew Kyla didn't want her body to be blown up, right? If Kylo was like, hey, I'm going to die. Whatever happens to me, though, for sure, don't let the Department of Defense blow my body up. And then you're like, baby, I swear, I love you. We won't do that.
Yeah.
And then you find out that some company was like, well, we took her body and we blew it up.
So first,
would you be like, I'm fucking pissed?
I'd say I'm pissed. I'm pissed on like a moral level.
Mhm.
But on a practical level, I'd be like, I can see you now.
yeah, right. Yeah, totally. So,
So would the money be worth it to you then?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, if she's already blown up,
Duh.
then yeah.
So here's where all this shit unraveled. The company first caught the eye of the feds in 2011 when a Detroit-based body broker was caught crossing the border into Canada with several heads, some of which were traced back to Biological Resource Center. After another incident would draw yet even more attention to Gore just 1 year later when at the Delta Cargo warehouse in Detroit, 2 bloody camper coolers started leaking all over the floor.
Wow,
that would smell.
So
my
these
God.
fucking poor baggage handlers are alarmed. There's blood oozing out of the containers.
You know what
and,
this is? This is retribution for all the shit that they've broken.
And federal authorities called to investigate were bracing for a gruesome discovery. They flipped open the lids, and inside, they found 8 severed heads packaged in trash bags and resting in pools of blood.
Wow,
Whoa.
dude, that is nightmare fuel. You
Like,
never.
so
recover from that.
not only are they doing something that they shouldn't be doing, but they're doing it in such a like non-professional way. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you're going to donate a body
Yeah.
to the Department of Defense. And the way you do it is go, all right, let's just chop, like someone's job at one of these places, fucking Biological Research Center, was to go, all right, I'm going to take this body, I'm going to Jeffrey Dahmer it the fuck up, chop its head off, cut off his dick and balls, and I'm going to take it and put it in a garbage bag and then put it in a cooler.
This is ultimately the case for the case. There's reasons why regulation is good, and there's reasons why deregulation is good. And in any industry, the case for deregulation could be a very open environment for innovation, blah 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 blah. But also coming with deregulation is the opportunity for people who have no accreditation, no background, no experience, et cetera, to start a business where they are allowed to transport bodies, sell, trade, exchange corpses, body parts, etc. And with no oversight of that industry, that's why that happens.
Yeah, it just makes me think though too. If they were more professional, maybe they would have gotten away with it. Like I went today to
It's sloppy work.
my orthodontist, Dr. Andrew Emanuel. He's amazing. Paradigm Orthodontics.
Wait, hold on. Did they?
Wow.
I just
Did
want to
you-
say I left them. Guys,
Did you get a rebate
guys,
on
did you
your
know-
on your
Yeah.
Invisalign for that?
Did
Yeah.
you know that this is a thing? So I left them a Google review when I finished my treatment, and they told me today that the review got taken down because it was too good. Because Google is like, oh, we're gonna flag this. This is fluffed up too much. It's not an accurate representation of
That's
of the
hilarious.
service. And I was like, that's bullshit, dude. Because your service is so good. And I was thinking if Dr. Andrew Emanuel from
What
Paradigm Orthodontics,
Fuck
Christ.
is happening.
if he was running this body corpse ring, he does such a professional
Dude,
job.
this is the review
that
you should have
he-
left.
that-
This
that
is the
he
review you
would've-
should have left
that
on
he
Google
would've
reviews.
he would have gotten away with it. Honestly,
On Google reviews, one thing's for sure: if this guy was in the body broker business, he'd be nailing.
We
it.
we have to pay really close attention to everything Brian says now, because he's clearly making deals
Yeah.
under the table for sponsorship that we're being
Jesus
completely cut out of.
So one of
guys,
the
don't worry. In the video here, I'll just edit it, put up a copy of my before and after photos.
Yeah.
You can check them out.
So one of the heads that came from this cooler that the baggage handlers found came from a person who died from bacterial sepsis and aspiration pneumonia. And there was an address on the coolers. It led to a body broker, Arthur Rathburn. So Gore, it turns out, was one of Rathburn's main body part suppliers. And like Gore, Rathburn would also be convicted, but in federal court, of fraud for selling and transporting infected body parts. Now, in 2014, the FBI raided Gore's Chop Shop in Phoenix. The fact that they
Chop
call it a chop shop.
That's cool.
And were aghast by what they found. Ready for this? They showed up to Gore's place, and they found heads thrown in buckets, coolers full of penises, body parts tossed in freezers without any apparent identification, and a torso with a different head sewn on like Frankenstein.
Dude, how ironic is it that his last name is Gore?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just is like there's just a. I mean, you guys joke that I'm a sociopath.
This guy's
This
actually
guy's a
No,
sociopath.
this guy's a psychopath.
Yeah. Arizona Attorney
He's a
General.
sociopath. He's a psychosociopath.
Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich told the Arizona Republic in 2016 that the investigation into BRC, which was the company, could be traced back to a grisly Delta cargo discovery, though it's unclear whether he was referencing the same one in Rathbun's bust. Brnovich had said authorities found 15 severed heads. Quote, this investigation was initiated when you had a body company trying to ship 15 severed heads in plastic ice coolers on a Delta cargo flight dripping with blood. And that's how customs found the shipment, and that's what began this whole process. So all of this is just, this is just one case.
Mm-hmm.
If this is one case, it's not an isolated thing.
So this is how Stouffer found out.
This is how it all led back exactly to Stouffer finding out that his grandma was just blown to bits.
So do you think that there's a bunch of other companies operating more like Dr. Andrew Emanuel from Paradigm Orthodontics that are much more professional, that are just getting away with this?
Was it a 3? Did you have to mention it 3 times? Was that the deal?
Yeah, it was 3.
Well, at
yeah,
least you
and
got them
then
all out.
put up the before and after pictures. Yeah,
But guys, how
yeah.
fucking crazy
It's
is
pretty.
that?
It's pretty wild. I mean, but so on the flip side of that,
Do you think
I
though,
would.
but
I want to know. I want to know now that we know the underbelly and the shitty dark side of this. I want to know the. I want to know the other side. I want to know the legit, the professional side of what happens when somebody says, I want my body to go to science,
Well, I
et
mean,
cetera, whatever.
the legit side of things is that your body gets donated to a university or a hospital or, some sort of institution that uses the body to advance
Right.
medical sciences.
But what is it? But I want to know the path, similar to the way that we get to the place where this shit happens, where somebody dies, they have maybe something written in their will or their advance directive or whatever, and then they communicate with the funeral home, then the funeral home communicates with a university or whatever. I want to know what that path is.
But
Yeah.
it sounds like it.
To the
is-
I bet
you-
it
I
sounds
bet
like
you-
it's one of those companies.
I bet you
that's
this
just
company
better.
did that. I bet you this company did that.
Also did that.
And
yeah.
and was also going, and we'll also take this torso that we sewed somebody else's head onto and send that to the guy that's from
Doing the conference.
who wants to fuck it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dude. Wow.
Like there's probably someone out there that was like, that did the fucking research that Gore did and was like, oh, that's how I can fuck dead bodies.
you know what's crazy?
I just got to get a hold of Gore.
Certainly, that's happening.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Oh, that makes me.
And we
feel
just
sick to
either
my
don't
stomach.
know about it yet, or we do know about it, and we just haven't read it.
Well, this is where we come in.
Sleuthing?
Yeah, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna
let's be sleuths.
We're gonna bust the case.
Fuck yeah.
We're gonna
Starting
team up
to-
with the nighttime podcast here at Halifax, Nova Scotia. And we're gonna get to the fucking bottom of
Hell
it.
yeah.
Frank Magazine, nighttime podcast, and Sick Boy podcast coming together.
Dude. Sick Boy X Frank X
Ugh.
Nighttime Pod.
That makes me want to gag.
Let's move along here. This is a really interesting little piece that Tay, you brought to my attention. Infrastructure bill includes law that aims to end drunk driving. This is really fascinating. So the Department of Transportation still has to decide about what kind of tech they want to use to try and stop drunk driving. So Biden is about to sign this $1 trillion infrastructure bill.
He actually did yesterday.
Okay, on Mondays, right?
Yeah.
So he did yesterday. And he'll be putting into effect the government's biggest push yet to end drunk driving. It's not just a call for more corny PSAs, but by 2026, automakers will be required to install technology that detects and prevents intoxicated drivers from hitting the road. So some of the options in development include like discrete sensors placed within the car that would measure the alcohol level in driver's blood or breath. Another possible solution, and this one doesn't make any sense to me, include cameras similar to ones currently used by car makers like GM to monitor driver attentiveness when the driver assistance features are in use.
Yeah, so there's obviously privacy issues at play, which are going to be major hurdles to get over for this to actually be implemented. There's way more privacy concerns in the like being able to sense alcohol in somebody's breath than the, well, maybe not. Then what was the other option? It was cameras
or sensing alcohol levels in blood or breath.
But the other one was the attentive.
Yeah.
Because that's technology that is in use already for self-driving features and stuff like that, right?
So wrap my head around this. How the fuck would that work, right? Like,
I don't know. I feel like
if you're drunk and you go, all right, I know I'm going to get in my car, and I know my car has cameras in there, and my car is going to be like crunching numbers to figure out whether or not I'm paying enough attention to the road, but I'm drunk, yet I know that these cameras are in here. Like, it seems like something that could be fooled.
Sure. So there's got to be some. By 2030.
2026.
2026. So 2026.
That's soon.
5 years from now, I would say most models, like at least mid to upper range models of every car manufacturer is probably going to have some level of assisted driving or like semi-autonomous driving feature where lane switching and shit like that. Most likely like new models by them. And so in the case of using the sensors, I could see it being something where there's some sliding scale of like attentiveness that they are able to detect, which is definitely very subjective, obviously.
Yeah.
Because how do you distinguish between a drunk driver and somebody who fucking sucks at driving a car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a big problem. But the breath thing is interesting. Although the problem I see with the breath thing is that how does it know that it's the driver that's been drinking and not somebody in the back seat or somebody in the passenger seat? Because if you could, I would personally be all for. I'm not against the idea of like zero tolerance alcohol and driving. I think that's probably a pretty good.
Well, around 10,000 people are killed in drunk driving accidents every year. 10,000. Making up about 30% of all traffic fatalities.
That's in the U.S.
Yeah, 30% of all traffic fatalities are drunk driving. And the plan is seeking to reduce those deaths, so 10,000, by 9,400. So
I totally agree. Like, I would love, it would be amazing to be able to eliminate drunk driving. And I would be all for, I'd support any initiative that is working towards that. But there's something about collecting personal data that makes me feel weird in the sense that, in my other job, I work for
But they're collecting personal data now. They're just collecting the personal data once you've gotten in an accident and killed somebody. And then that's the data that they're collecting.
What do you mean?
Like that, so they'll have to collect personal data by this person got in the car and we detected alcohol, so the car won't work. That's a personal data point. The other side of that same coin is let's not collect the data or not have that feature, but we'll collect that data after they kill somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's funny because I don't have I understand where you're coming from. I get about it. I don't have a concrete reason why. It's more so, I guess when I think of they're constantly collecting data points on us, and then who is the company? Because my concern isn't about what is this data being used for.
Yep.
It's who is the company that's collecting, holding it, and then what are they doing with that? Because
someone will
I
benefit
know
from
of a number of companies that have started businesses with really great intentions that collect data, and then they end up being sold or bought. They end up being bought by another company, that is using that data in ways that it wasn't intended.
Yeah, like biological
buying the
resource
data.
center.
Yeah.
They're buying the database is what they're buying.
I mean, like,
And
you
data
know,
is the most valuable.
I know one of your
commodity in the
favorite
world.
companies does this.
Cambridge Analytica.
Meta.
Meta. Meta.
Meta is
That
Brian's
is not. That is not.
favorite company.
I don't like Meta.
Well,
I like VR.
I don't know about that. Yeah,
And who is making VR right now?
Yeah.
Lots of people.
Anyway, it'll
Mostly
be interesting to see. 2026 is just around the corner, and you know, like he'll still be alive around that time.
Like
Yeah.
I watched a really this is just a quick aside in the same sort of realm, but there was a Veritasium video a while back where he went to Waymo headquarters in Arizona, and
Same place that Biological Resource Center is from.
probably yeah, and is it in Albuquerque?
Oh no, they're from Phoenix. Sorry, my bad.
Oh sorry, I did say Arizona, but I think it's New Mexico.
Okay.
And so Waymo is Google's autonomous driving project company, and they do all their like testing in I believe it's in Albuquerque. It's either in Albuquerque or it's in or it might be Phoenix.
Okay.
Or what's the other place in Phoenix? I know this.
Who cares?
I know this doesn't matter.
Tulsa.
And it was just really interesting the way that like they break down the inability to digest statistics in terms of like autonomous driving and how it relates to safety, and how it's like, oh, you know, if there's, you know, in so many driving hours there was like this many crashes, and that's always used in media as like this is a reason why we shouldn't do it. And it's like in the same amount of driving hours with like human operated vehicles, it's like 10,000 times that amount of injuries or fatalities or something. And it's like the inability to like recognize that like there are so many things that technology just does way better than humans do, and because they don't have to go through the processes that our brains do to come to the same conclusion.
But what about all the jobs that we'll lose?
Very good question.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Looking forward to it though, because you know, drunk driving is an issue, and anything we can do to, I mean, not anything, but mostly anything we can do to quell that problem, I think is a good thing.
Get rid of alcohol.
That's not the solution, but
no, that ain't it, and I don't like that. Here's actually before I get into this story, Tay, you so we had a Patreon live stream a couple of nights ago for our lovely patrons.
yes, we did.
And we do these live streams. Basically, they're live streamed episodes exclusively for our patrons once a month. And we've been doing it for a little while now. They're really fun, really great way for our patrons to engage in the middle of a recording. And we did one a couple of nights ago with special guest, Kyla, your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And it's out in the public now for people who like follow, you know, Kyla and you on social media. Maybe not you, but Kyla for sure.
Yeah.
But do you want to give the news to all the people who
I'm having a baby.
Taylor's pregnant.
That's
I'm
fucking
having a
crazy.
baby girl in March, and that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And the reason that we were talking to Kyla, reason that we had the conversation with Kyla was because we tried for a long time and we weren't having any success, and we did IVF.
Yeah.
And
It's quite a story. I got to say, Kyla was an incredible guest.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually going to release that episode in a couple of weeks. So really looking forward to that. It's truly a solid, beautiful conversation. But before we started recording today, you were talking about how you bought like a baby book.
yeah, we have a few books at home, and some of them we bought, and some of them, you know, parents or friends or whoever, you know, bought them for us and gave them to us. And I'm reading this one, and Kyla got this one for me because she was like, it's all like data driven like analytics about like parenting from like birth to, I think, the first like 3 years or something like that.
Was it written by Professor Lipschitz?
It was not.
Oh, he's like the foremost thinker in early childhood education.
The foremost thought leader.
He's a thought leader. Yeah.
And
Professor Lipschitz.
and so I'm reading this book, and I'm enjoying the
I didn't know who that was. And I was like, who's Professor Dr. Lipschitz? And now I realize that is a character from Rugrats. Thank you.
Oh, I remember that.
He's the guy that they're always referring to.
I
Like, did
remember
you
that.
ask him about
Yeah,
that?
that's right.
Yeah.
And so I'm reading this book and I'm enjoying the like premise of like looking at data and like scientific studies on.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I got to fucking, I'm on the Rugrats wiki. This is fucking hilarious. Dr. Werner P. Lipschitz, male, born in 1941, age approximately 50 at the time that this was written, race, human, occupation, child psychologist, interests. He likes eating cheese, making money, helping children, and helping parents.
Oh my god, that's really funny. Thank God for character wikis.
Holy fuck.
So I'm reading this book and I'm enjoying I'm enjoying the look at all these things and questions that parents have about, you know, should I do this or should I do that, or how should I approach this situation if it comes up and everything, and looking at the data and going, you know, like, is there any evidence at all to suggest that it matters what choice you make? You know, or is it like a total toss up, or is it clear that this is a data backed, you know, position to take, or, you know, that stuff. But I'm reading the book and it's positioned through this lens that I just like can't
Get behind.
I just can't wrap my head around. I get it because I've seen these parents. It's positioned and the narrative is told through like hey, I understand you are scared shitless about everything that could possibly like every little thing.
It's one of those
is
books that's written like presuming how you feel.
Totally.
And it's taking the lens that you are afraid, scared,
super
nervous,
afraid that like
anxious.
I can't even wrap my head around how I'm going to be a parent, how I'm going to raise a human, that like it's the scariest thing in the planet. And I don't want to say that I can't wrap my head around it, because I understand the idea of being scared. And especially when you have something that's very, very new. I remember when I got Loki and, you know, he would get sick and I'd be like, holy shit, what the fuck is happening? He's sick. Like I understand that.
And especially now knowing, like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like especially through this podcast and through even Turn Me On, like just knowing all of the ways that just simply being a good parent will inherently fuck up your child.
Yeah.
You know, like having that knowledge and about to have a kid, I get it. It's like, oh God.
I mean, and I'm reading it and going like, wow, this is like, you know, the information is good. The position of the narrative is, you know, not directed towards me. I shouldn't have said I can't wrap my head
That
around.
was probably
I
the
very much
publishing
can.
company that was like, yeah, I think like the information's great, but I think we should position it this way.
But what it highlighted to me as a New York Times bestseller is how many people are coming at it from that frame of mind, because it's simply the way, because it's so obvious the way that it's written that way, that there's no way that it would sell if there wasn't that mentality being very widespread.
Do you think Kyla feels at all that way?
No.
Only because
No.
like I know that I feel like you have, you know, you are self-proclaimed the most rational person on the entire planet.
Self-proclaimed.
So-
Also, I think I've been usurped by a recent discovery I've made in a historian and thinker named Neil Ferguson, but second most rational person.
So anyway, my point is that, do you think that, like, you know, do you feel like you have a level of awareness where you're like, oh, maybe this is, you know, I think of it this way because I tend to be a more pragmatic, rational thinker, and, you know, I might not be like the general population because I feel like I wouldn't be scared or nervous or anxious, I feel like I could empathize with the fact that it would be a very common experience for people to be like, oh,
Totally.
fuck, like I'm
Totally.
terrified.
And I anticipate being frightened about things coming up, but I'm not concerned about being able to make a rational decision about how to go about solving the problem.
Yeah.
When I think of having a kid, the first word that comes to mind, of the first feeling that comes to mind when I think about the first year of that kid's life is boredom. I just imagine it to be a really boring experience.
Yeah,
For
man.
who? For the parent or for the baby?
For the parent.
Yeah, dude, when Tash had her kid, and we took Hudson for a walk the first time, I was like,
You don't do anything.
this thing's fucking boring, dude. It can't even see me, and I'm right in front of it. And it's just like, and I was like, it doesn't do anything.
That's a really
It
good
just
impression.
shits. It just shits and eats.
Yeah, but for the parent, for you it would be boring.
That's what I mean.
But for the parent it wouldn't be boring because you have to
Elimination
you
communication.
got to make sure that it's not dead every day, and
Yeah,
that's a
which is-
job.
Yeah.
Like
guess
all
so.
day,
I guess. Yeah, I guess.
all day.
But like I feel like you think that, but there's 24 hours in a day.
Dude, guaranteed
And, like,
in the first month, fucking 33 days in, Taylor's gonna be like setting the baby up on the other side of the fucking living room, like on the couch, and it's just gonna it won't be able to. He's gonna like have to prop its fucking head up because its goddamn neck can't, and it's just like this. And Taylor's gonna like be taking a baseball, going, "Come on, dude, catch it," and just throwing a baseball at it. He's gonna go, fuck. This thing can't do nothing.
How are you going to learn how to win if you can't even catch a fucking baseball?
Maybe it's not. Maybe
You gotta
it's
start with a
not
football.
boring.
It's bigger,
Right.
less hard.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Well, listen, this is a story that might scare the shit out of you, and hopefully it scares the.
I sent it to you.
Hopefully, it puts the fear of God into you. This is actually really sad. A couple had to trade babies after embryos were mixed up. This is from the Washington Post. How do you pronounce this name? Daphna. Her name is Daphna.
Daphna.
Oh, I remember.
I think it's actually Daphna.
I remember
It's
reading
pronounced
it.
Daefnaa. Daphna. Spelled Daphna. When Daphna Cardinal became pregnant with her second daughter in January 2019, she was overjoyed. The in vitro fertilization process was a success, like you. And she savored the next 9 months, knowing the pregnancy would probably be her last.
I can't even wrap my head around this shit, dude.
But when the girl was born that September, Daphna and her husband, Alexander, were shocked. Alexander took several steps away from the birthing table, backing up against the wall when he first saw the baby's jet black hair and complexion that was darker than his wife's, and their first daughter's.
First of all, that scene is straight out of a fucking comedy movie. Like, what do you think he was thinking?
Well, if it wasn't IVF, then he would be.
Oh,
probably-
right, because it's IVF. Right.
Even after they brought the girl home, Alexander could not shake the dissonance. The couple's family and friends noticed too, saying they were surprised the girl looked so different and even asking if the embryos had been donated. Alexander sometimes felt he had to joke that the baby girl was not his daughter. In fact, the couple soon learned she wasn't. Whoa. According to a lawsuit the Cardinals filed Monday, the fertility clinic that facilitated the in vitro pregnancy at the California Center for Reproductive Health, which is run by a guy named Gore, implanted another couple's embryo into Daphna. Their own embryo, the Cardinals learned, was implanted into the mother of the child whom Daphna gave birth. In other words, the Cardinals allege the fertility clinic mixed up the embryos, a mistake that forced the couples to trade their babies after months of raising them.
Whoa.
Here's a fucking...
Not to mention that they had to... That you then realized that you didn't grow your child.
Yeah. So here's a pretty sad but video of the couple.
Alexander and I are devastated. We missed an entire year of our daughter's life.
Whoa.
I didn't get to experience being pregnant with her or birthing her. We missed her entire newborn period. We never saw our baby's entrance into the world or cuddled her in her first seconds of life. Our memories of childbirth will always be tainted by the sick reality that our biological child was given to someone else. And the baby that I fought to bring into this world was not mine to keep. There's no way to describe the pain that we've been through. The struggle to guide our older daughter through losing the little sister she fell in love with.
Oh my God.
Dude, that's a
Dude,
lot.
the
That is
couple-
crazy.
Honestly, I was gonna jokingly say that I have no empathy for that couple because as a twin, when I was born, there's no way that I can be sure that I wasn't mixed up with my brother as a little baby. So like, you guys might call me Brian, but when I was born, I might have been Dennis.
You could have been.
And there's no possible way for us to really know. And like, imagine
Because
that's a little
doctor,
different.
imagine.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I was
but
gonna
also
jo- I was gonna
to
joke
his
about that.
point, the doctor was also a clown practicing juggling at the time. So like both babies came out and he's like, "Hey, want to see a trick?" And he started doing this and he's like, "Brian does. Brian does." I don't fucking know. Here, take it.
And the other thing is like, imagine putting twins into a crib at night and then coming back in the morning and being like,
Actually, yeah, for real though.
Brian,
That's
Dennis, I guess.
yeah.
They
That's,
probably marked you.
that's crazy.
They must have marked
My
you.
parents did. They put nail polish on one of us. But like,
Yeah, that makes
imagine going to bed and putting nail polish on one and going, we put the nail polish on Brian, and then coming back in the morning and be like, was it last night that we put the nail polish on Brian, or was that?
No,
do we always do that?
Your dad's pretty like pragmatic.
He's an
and,
engineer,
and
yeah.
like,
You know what they should do
he
is
would go. We always do it on only one of them, and
Yeah.
always the same.
Yeah, but what if they
we-
forgot?
yeah, exactly. What you
Right?
should what they should do with twins as soon as they come out is just have a tattoo artist sitting there and they just tattoo on the inside of the ear
Yeah.
like a little tag number like
barcode
dogs
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I actually don't think that that's a bad idea.
Honestly,
Yeah, man.
after watching that video, guys, this just makes
Thanks.
me really sad.
The
It's
couple is
very
now
sad.
suing the clinic and its owner, obstetrician Ilaran Moore, for
Gore.
monetary damages. Gore, sorry. Their claims against Gore and his company include breach of contract, medical malpractice, and infliction of emotional distress on the couple. Gore/Moore did not immediately respond to a message from the Washington Post. Obviously, that guy's fucking bummed right now. The babies had been born a week apart, according to the Associated Press, and the second family is not named in the lawsuit. And soon after both families discovered they had been rearing the wrong children, they arranged to meet, and they continued to stay in contact in the following days, according to the lawsuit.
I feel really bad for Moore too because it would be devastating.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
my
I
initial
mean, they
reaction was
obviously
like-
didn't mean
like-
to do that.
But
No.
if he ran his company like Dr. Andrew Emanuel from Paradigm Orthodontics,
a
there's
fourth
no way
mention?
that would have ever happened.
I feel like I feel like the only positive silver lining that could exist in this is that there ends up being a lasting relationship between the two families that goes on.
How wild would it be if those two kids grew up and then they fell in love?
That would be.
That's the next Justin Baldoni
I'm-
movie.
I'm
This
trying
is
to,
it. Justin, you listening?
I'm trying to think.
got
of
you,
like,
bro.
I'm trying to think of like the conflicts that would exist in that relationship, but I guess there wouldn't be any.
No. Oh, you're thinking like by blood and like those
Yeah,
kinds of.
right. Because they
Nah,
wouldn't.
nah.
But would they? Because the
Mm,
because the blood supply to the baby comes from the placenta.
but it doesn't.
So-
placenta doesn't share DNA with the.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's confusing.
Right.
Plus, there's no worries of them having. They're two baby girls, so they would
They would have
It's
to
like-
adopt.
they're not. It's not like
Or
they're gonna have a
right.
kid and the kid's gonna come out like, well, you
Sorry.
fucked your cousin and
They
now
wouldn't-
it's got
Right,
like
right.
They
too
wouldn't
many
have to.
teeth.
They wouldn't have to adopt. They could do IVF also, but they'd have to have donor sperm.
Because like as hard as it is, the hard part about going, I didn't get to see our daughter, grow up for the first year. There's also the like you obviously create a relationship. I mean, because you're going to create a daughter feeling relationship towards the kid because it
100%.
came out of you.
Yeah.
You
That's what they were
grew the
saying.
child. You did make that child.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like you did. It just wasn't your DNA, and that was the mix up. I mean, people do surrogate babies and embryo donations and sperm donations and embryo and sperm donations that create children, and like so there's any manner of like different ways that you could have a child that's not going to have your DNA, not to mention just adoption, and you could love that kid the same as a have sex and have a baby. but like to have that end, I mean, that would be fucked.
Dude,
that would be
and
like losing. That would be like losing a kid.
My dog doesn't share my DNA, and I got him 8 weeks after he was born, and now 4 months after having him in my life, if I had to give him up for another dog that actually I was supposed to get because it was my DNA and I was supposed to give birth to that, I would be devastated.
Donut has my DNA.
Yeah, I know.
I led a blood ritual the other night, and I just it was like from midnight mass, and I just went, I bet into him, sucked his blood, and then slit my own wrist and poured it into him.
That doesn't make him any better.
So cute.
Yeah, it does.
That's so cute.
Hey, Donut.
Look at his little mustache he's got going right now.
You got the best mustache.
He does.
You're so cute.
You got the best move.
All right, we got to wrap this up, but before we do, let's get into this week's edition of What the Hell?
That was pretty good.
Thanks. Neurocysticerrosis
Okay.
is a most disturbing way to get tapeworms in your brain.
Oh, fuck.
Man, I fucking hate worms.
Guys, this is really crazy.
Dude.
On a night that seemed like any other, a perfectly healthy 38-year-old man in Massachusetts fell from his bed amid a violent seizure at 4 a.m. The commotion woke his wife, who found her husband on the floor shaking and speaking gibberish.
Nice.
He was rushed to Massachusetts General Hospital. There, doctors witnessed the man had 2-minute-long tonic-clonic grand mal seizure in which he lost consciousness and his muscles aggressively contracted.
Whoa.
Doctors began the painstaking process of trying to piece together what was wrong by performing a battery of tests and interviewing his family. So I'm going to get you to guess what the fuck's going on here. By nearly every account, the man was in very good health. He had no history of seizures, no cardiovascular, respiratory, gastrointestinal, genitourinary or neurological disorders.
This is easy.
His toxicology screens were clear. He took no medications, prescribed or over the counter. He didn't smoke. He rarely drank. There was no evidence of anything that happened to him recently that would have provoked a seizure. The man spent the previous day with his children and had dinner with his brother, who reported nothing out of the ordinary. The only initial hint of the diagnosis was that the man had immigrated from Boston from a rural area in Guatemala about 20 years earlier. So what do you think happened?
I think it was a succubus.
It does sound a little bit like demonic possession. He was speaking in tongues, writhing on the floor.
See,
But they did not get any priests involved at any point.
this is also on the
No.
Wait, but you already said that there was the worms, but you're asking where they came from.
How did he get them?
In
his brain. How did he get them in his brain?
Right, because if it was produce or something that would be in his digestive system, not in his brain, how the fuck did it get in your brain?
was,
He's into trepanation.
No, it was it's somebody from a relative from Guatemala sent him like some type of like snorting tobacco or something. And
That's actually not a bad guess.
Yeah, snorted it and went in small passageway into the brain.
Well, let me get through this because I gotta record Turn Me On in 8 minutes. The doctors performed a CT scan. They quickly narrowed the possibilities. The scan revealed 3 calcified lesions in his brain, and the doctors homed in on the diagnosis of neurocysticerrosis. In other words, larval cysts from a pork tapeworm had migrated to his head years ago and nestled into various parts of his brain. The doctors documented their work on the man's illness in a case study published this Thursday.
You want to drive yourself crazy? Imagine that you have one of those in your head right now.
So here's how this is possible. Learning about the path of neurocysticerrosis is not for the weak of stomach. It's a cruddy calamity as nauseating as it is dangerous. The pork tapeworms, Taenia solium, which looks like this, typically tuck themselves into human intestines.
That's a succubus.
Where they can grow a shocking length of up to 8 meters.
Whoa.
That's 26 feet.
God.
The worm's victims, meanwhile, expel parasitic eggs in their shit. Now, if that egg-laden excrement makes its way into an environment with pigs, the pigs carry out the worm's life cycle by ingesting the eggs from the poop. In the pig's stomach, gastric acid prompts the eggs to lose their protective coating and hatch into larval cysts called oncospheres. These can penetrate the intestinal wall and take a ride through the pig's body via the circulatory system. Then they eventually burrow into the pig's muscles and lie in wait as cystoceri, which is typically not a bother for the pig. So pigs have no idea. Now, but if a human ends up eating undercooked pork containing those larval cysts, the life cycle continues. In a human gastrointestinal tract, the worms emerge from its cystic form and sinks into its hooks and foresuckers into the human's upper intestines. There, it can happily slurp away for years, growing its ribbon-like meters-long body and shedding more eggs, and the life cycle begins again. So that's the whole process,
But
right?
then what if it ends there? What happens to the person if it ends there?
Things go sideways, however, when a human, not a pig, ends up eating the worm's eggs. This can happen in a nauseating scenario in which someone infected with a tapeworm happens to have bad hygiene and also prepares food. In other words, a poopy hand tapeworm victim contaminates a meal. In this case, the eggs hatch in the human stomach as they do in pigs. Their larval cysts can end up in the human's muscles, which is the cysticercosis, but they can also migrate to the eyes and brain, neurocysticercosis.
Holy fuck me, dude. This is
a dead end for the worm and can develop into a big problem for the human. So when the worm is in the brain, the cyst goes through 4 stages. At first, it quietly lays in wait as a viable worm, provoking little to no immune responses and thus no symptoms. This stage can last many years, but over time, the cyst degenerates and leaks fluid that then alerts the immune system that there's a parasite present, promoting a really strong response. The cyst degenerates further and forms a nodule in the brain. Finally, the nodule becomes a calcified granuloma. Seizures have then been associated with the inflammatory responses linked to the late stage calcification.
You guys want to know what makes me so fucking mad?
Fucking crazy
you
is
know
that?
What makes me so mad now? Think about how many potential diagnoses there are for like a grand mal seizure. Like how many potential things can lead to that?
So many.
And think about how shitty the writing is on Grey's Anatomy, knowing that there's so much potential.
I don't think about that.
Stories like that.
Yep.
Like I'm really let down by Grey's Anatomy now.
So am I.
That's the thing that makes me
been
so mad about
I'm
this
so let
episode.
down by it that I avoid it entirely.
So to wrap this up, the guy, he was brought into the hospital. He's given multiple doses of anti-seizure medication. He was intubated, transferred to the neurosciences intensive care unit, where he was stabilized, extubated. Doctors began treatment with anti-parasitic drugs and anti-inflammatory drugs.
Ivermectin.
5 days later, he, I mean,
Probably,
maybe,
probably.
5 days later, he had no remaining neurological symptoms and seizures, and he was totally fine.
Whoa.
I know. That was a crazy one.
That is bananas. We should have.
Thank you,
him on the
Reddit,
podcast.
for popping that in my
That
feed
is
today.
fucking nuts.
Listen, folks, this has been so fun. Love you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and a review. Follow on Spotify. To our patrons, we love you. Thank you for contributing to the show. Wouldn't be able to do it without you.
And, if you've ever had a baby mix-up, let us know. letters@sickboypodcast.com. I shouldn't joke about that. It's very sad. But if you ever had, letters@sickboypodcast.com.
Let us know anyway.
Let us know anyway, because it's crazy.
Let's get sad about it together.
Letters@sickboypodcast.com. And if you want to be a guest on the show, go to sickboypodcast.com/contact and fill out the guest form.
And thank you so much to the folks who make this show happen. Thank you to Jeff Lonis, our manager, to Rich O'Coin for the theme music, to you guys for doing this with me as well, and to everybody else who makes this show happen, including our lovely supporters on Patreon.
That is it for this week.
I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jeremy, and this is Sick Boy.